to And There It Is. My name is Nick. I won't be slow, but I'll try to make this quick. I wanted to talk to you today in reference to what was going on with these tariffs that the fella in the White House has put in place, Trump. And I'm not going to make this a long video, so if you like the video, please hit the like button, subscribe, and hit the little bell, and you'll know about my upcoming videos. So what I wanted to talk about was this impromptu news conference that Trump had. That impromptu news conference, he stated that he was going to issue a 90-day pause on the reciprocal tariffs for most countries. Now, I find that quite interesting that he did that, and everybody knew he was going to do it because he's already done it two times already, so this is the third time he's done it. Every time he's pushed out his chest and said it with his full chest that we're going to make sure that these tariffs are going to stay in place and everybody's going to pray and they're going to pay and we're going to cut down the trade money that we're spending to all these other different countries so we can get our deficit down. And every time he pumped his chest out and said this was going to happen, every time so far, he reversed track. So when he did it the first two times, I said it was only going to be a matter of time he was going to do it again. I didn't think he was going to fold that quickly that he did. But here we are. He said the reason he thought that people were getting a little bit yippy, a little afraid of what was going on. And he said that what he's doing with these tariffs is something that no other president would have ever done. And I agree with him 100%. No other president would have done anything as foolish as this because all he's doing is disrupting the U.S. economy, disrupting the world economy, the trades all across the world. And it's affecting people's 401ks, it's affecting people's livelihood, it's making people nervous, it's making people concerned about what's going to happen with their money because everything that is happening, there's no rhyme or reason on what he's doing. So it's kind of disrupting what's going on, including major business leaders are coming out saying that, hey, why don't you put a 90-day pause? You had J.P. Morgan come out and say, why don't you put a 90-day pause? You had Bill Ackman, who was a big Trump supporter, to say, hey, put a 90-day pause on because you're impacting the economy. And not only are they impacting the economy, it's also impacting their pockets because I think Elon Musk is another person that was concerned with these tariffs because they're having a negative impact on him as well. But I think there was something a little more insidious going on with these tariffs. And what I mean by that is that inside trading. I think inside trading played a major role in what was going on. And I think that this is something that came from Trump's first administration back in 2020. If you guys could take a little trip down memory lane with me, if you guys remember back in 2020, summer 2020, Trump made this announcement from out of nowhere that Kodak, the film company, was going to get into pharmaceuticals and start making chemicals to help fight and prevent COVID. And you're scratching your head like, what does Kodak has to do with pharmaceuticals? And in many people's opinion, absolutely nothing. But I think this was the initial test phase of the pump and dump that we're seeing now that's going not only throughout the country, but throughout the world. There's a lot of investors that I believe are aware and were foretold what was going to happen and to purchase stock when it drops low. And then he was going to make an announcement saying that he was going to pause the tariffs, which is going to cause the stock to go up. And all these folks will make money off it. So if you remember back in the summer of 2020, Kodak stock was around about $3 or $4 a share. And then when Trump made the announcement that they were going to invest in Kodak to make these pharmaceuticals for COVID, then all of a sudden, Kodak stock shot up for about 2 days. And everybody had already purchased the stock low that knew what he was going to announce prior to that, caught it when it was around $3 to $4. It shot up to about $20, $22 a share. And you might say, well, that's not a big deal. We're only talking about, what, $18. But if you put thousands, millions of dollars into a stock that was only $4, and then you get $18 on the dollar for every $4 that you put in, that's a lot of money. Because it went up, it dropped, and it never came back. It never went back up to above $5 a share again. So I think that was the initial phase of the pump and dump scheme that Trump and Peter Navarro has been planning all along. And Peter Navarro was the person that came up with the plan for the same Peter Navarro that spent time in prison from the first Trump administration. So you got a convicted felon that's running the economics of the country. But he was the person behind that Kodak pump and dump. And the reason why I think this was a pump and dump scheme, if you watch this 17-minute clip of Trump talking to some businessmen in the White House, and one of those people being Charles Schwab, he specifically identifies Charles Schwab and say, "You made a lot of money. You made $2 billion. And this other gentleman here made $900 million. So I think they all was aware of what was going on, and they were all part of the scheme. I think a lot of the GOP, the reason why they're not fighting Trump on a lot of issues, I think a lot of them are aware of what's going on with this pump and dump, and a lot of them are getting paid off this pump and dump. A lot of them are making wealth off this pump and dump. And one of the key figures that just been identified is Marjorie Taylor Greene. Marjorie Taylor Greene has been, she purchased one day, I believe it was the 9th or 7th or 9th of April, where she purchased, right after the announcement of the tariffs, she went out and purchased stock in Apple, Lululemon, and Dell. One day she made purchases of 7 trades, and another day she did 19 trades. And all of these trades were between $1,000 and $15,000. Now, she disclosed this because all of our Congress people and people in the Senate have to identify within 45 days what they've been doing as far as trading. So we're probably going to hear more about some other politicians that were also pumping and dumping and getting, selling and buying at the same time to make some money out of this whole tariff scheme. So hours before he announced that he was going to make a big pause on the tariffs, Trump made this statement here. He said on his Truth social media, "This is a great time to buy," signing off with his initials, DJT. Now, what's interesting about Trump signing off on his initials, DJT? Whenever he's ever posted anything on social media, on his Truth Social, he's never signed off DJT. What's important about that DJT is also the stock symbol for his media company known as Trump Media and Technology Corp Group. So what do you think happened after he said this is a great time to buy and then signed off with DJT? Well, Trump Media and Technology Group went up 22%. And then shortly thereafter on Thursday morning, it got another pre-market of an additional 5%. So we're looking at 27% of his social media company gaining from the pump and dump scheme. He said, continually, be cool. Everything is going to work out well. The USA will be bigger and better than before. And then he also stated that if you just stand the tides, everything will come out all right. So this is having a major impact on, like I said, not just the world media, not just the world trade market, but it's also having an impact on the United States heavily because it's impacting people's 401ks, their savings. It's impacting people on whether or not they want to retire. Can they retire? Because they're not aware on where is this market's going to be going because it's unpredictable. And I think that's how they wanted to keep it. They want to make it to be unpredictable so only the people who are in the know will know when to buy and know when to sell. And it'll leave the rest of us guessing. So we got these tariffs in place. And then you hear Trump talking all boisterous and cocky and arrogant and saying that China needs to talk to me. They call me, I'm not calling them. If they want to be able to, move forward with these trade wars. And then all of a sudden, late Friday, electronic imports to the United States will be exempt from this reciprocal tariffs. So what did that mean? That means smartphones, computer monitors, and various electronic parts are now exempt. Where are those parts coming from? They're coming from China. There's a reason why these things are being exempt. It was going to have a major impact on people's purchasing power, not just here in the United States, but also around the world. But the main thing was it was going to have an impact on the American people. So again, Trump folds. Again, he folds. Again, he's talking about these tariffs are still going to keep the China's tariff rate at 145%, but he's going to let these electronic things get in. Where do you think China's making most of their money in the U.S.? It's on electronic goods. What company is benefiting the most from this? It's going to be Apple, Nvidia. Those are going to be the companies that's going to be benefiting from this. And it's funny to me because China make most of their iPhones. Like 90% of their iPhones is produced and made in China. So I'm pretty sure the CEO of Apple was talking to Trump and said, "Hey, you hurt my dollars. You hurt my pockets." So the Trump administration said these tariffs will bring jobs to the United States and reverse decade-long decline in manufacturing in the United States. But some of these products can easily be made and found in the United States, thus increasing the cost to produce them in American factories. Semiconductors and microchips are among the products heavily outsourced to factories in Asia due to low cost. These electronic parts are now exempt, according to Friday's notice. They're now exempt. This could help the Asian chip market, such as Taiwan's Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, also known as TSMC. And it's interesting, and keep that in mind. This particular company, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, TSMC. This is the same company that just not too long ago at a Republican National Congress event on Tuesday, Trump criticized the Biden administration decision to award a $6.6 billion grant to the TMC for semiconductor production in Phoenix as part of the 2022 Chip and Science Act. Remember, Biden came up with this particular act. Okay? So the Trump administration says these tariffs will bring more manufacturing jobs to the United States and reverse a decade-long decline, but some products can be easily made or found in the United States, thus increasing the cost to produce them in America. Semiconductors and microchips are among the products heavily outsourced to factories in Asia due to lower costs. These electronic parts are now exempt, according to the Friday notice. So the notice that just came out yesterday is saying that these parts are also going to be exempt. That could help Asian chip makers such as TSMC, also known as Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company. And it's interesting that that particular company was being identified in this statement because back on Tuesday at a Republican National Congressional Committee, Trump criticized the Biden administration's decision to award TSMC a $6.6 billion grant. Well, Biden gave them that grant as a part of his 2022 Chips and Science Act, and these semiconductors are going to be produced in Phoenix. Keep in mind, it's going to be produced in Phoenix. Now, Trump said in this same statement or speech, he gave TSMC no money and told the company, if you don't build your plant here, you're going to pay a big tax. 25, maybe 50, maybe 75, maybe 100%. Why does that statement does not make sense? Well, if you listen to what I said initially, TSMC is producing these semiconductors in Phoenix. So why would Trump say, if you don't start building these semiconductors in the United States, they're going to tax them 25, 50, 75, 100%. It makes absolutely no sense what he's saying. This is doublespeak. Because if you guys remember, back in March of this year, Donald Trump announced, here's a statement. Donald Trump announced that the the chip giant TSMC plans to invest $100 billion in the United States. Well, they were already going to plan on investing this, right? Under the CHIPS Act that Joe Biden put in place back in 2022, including a new and existing Phoenix area site. So this was already in place. So why did he say on Tuesday that if TSMC doesn't play ball, that he's going to tax them? It makes no sense. TSMC is the world's biggest semiconductor manufacturer to produce chips for companies including Apple, Intel, and Nvidia. The company has already announced plans to invest more than $65 billion in the U.S., including 3 plants in Arizona under the Biden administration. And the Biden administration offered billions of dollars in subsidies. Its first factories in Arizona began mass production of its 4 nanometer chips. So Trump and the TSMC Chief Executive Officer, C.C. Wei, said the $100 billion is on top of the $65 billion that was already announced under the Biden administration. Wei said the investments will be for 3 more chip manufacturing plants, along with 2 packaging facilities in Arizona. So Trump said, I say again, you got to listen to what he's saying and then follow up on what he has said and then look back what he has said in the past. He said that TSMC was going to have to be taxed if they didn't build any plants here in America. He just said that this past Tuesday, when he already knew back on March the 3rd that plants were already being built, not just 1, but 4 are being planned. And then he said he didn't give them any money. Well, Biden had already gave them $65 billion to start building, and then they agreed to another $100 billion on top of that. So when he says he's not giving them any money, the money is already there. So what he's saying doesn't even make any sense. And then he goes on and says, the president of Arizona Chamber of Commerce says, Danny Sniden says, TSMC expansion will not only create tens of thousands of jobs, it will have a trickle-down effect. We love that term, trickle-down. That will boost the state's entire economy. Well, let's see if this happens, because it says this is huge news. I cannot overstate it enough on how big a deal this is. This is $100 billion to our state. With that comes the need for apartments and housing so home builders can build. And we know these are high-paying jobs that are coming, and they are going to need to eat. So buying groceries, that's Trump's funny word, contributing to the tax base so it grows revenue in the base of Arizona as well. And what did Trump say at the end of that statement? This is a tremendous move in a matter of economic security. So on Tuesday, he said TSMC needs to build factories here in the United States, in which factories are already being built based on the CHIP Act of 2022, which was done by Joe Biden. And so we have these manufacturing plants being built, not only 1, but 4 in Arizona. So what was Trump even talking about? It was just another whole lot of talk, a whole lot of misspeak, a whole lot of misinformation to try to make him look good, try to make him seem like he's a tough guy, when basically he's just following along what Joe Biden has already put in place. If you like this video I put together today for you, please hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and we'll come back with another video in the near future. But I appreciate taking this time to listen to me today, and I am out. Peace.